Welcome to the Scoreboard. I'm Maddie Evans. We've got a great show in store for you as we're going to be sitting down with two-time Olympic gold medalist Ted Ligety. He is one of my all-time favorite ski racers and his childhood coach. Then we had the chance to catch up with the head coach from the Eagle Valley cross-country team and some of the incredible athletes that she has. We're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere because we've got more here on the Scoreboard. Welcome back to the Scoreboard. Our sports director recently had the chance to sit down with one of my absolute favorite ski athletes, Ted Ligety, and talk about his career and chat with his childhood coach. Let's see what they had to say.
Hey everyone, right now we are joined by two very special people here in Park City. It's Dar Hendrickson as well as Ted Ligety. Thank you both so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah,
My pleasure anyway.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, we kind of came up with this idea because we thought to ourselves, well, obviously Ted, you have such an illustrious career, but as close as any relationship is, it's an athlete to a coach. I mean, it's unbelievable the things that both of you have probably been through together. And so we kind of just wanted to talk about the career that both of you have had together and kind of talk about all sorts of different stuff. So I guess the first thing is, Ted, how are things going? First of all, how are things going post-retirement, things like that?
Yeah, I've been retired from ski racing for just about a year and a half now, and it's good. It's nice, not having to go to the gym and like slog away all summer and be able to enjoy Park City more, especially during the wintertime and hanging out with the kids and all those things that I was missing a little bit being on the road. It's nice to be able to spend more time at home.
Yeah, and Dar, for you, what have things been like? I know Ted is retired, but what have you been up to in terms of skiing and coaching and things like that?
I still march forward, otherwise known as the plow horse. Maybe not as fast as I used to be, but still out there skiing with the kids on a regular basis. Friday afternoons we go out to the UOP, and Saturday, Sundays we're at the Park City Mountain, and that starts early December and goes right through middle April or somewhere about there.
It's super exciting that it's all starting up again so quickly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already here. So
it's hard to believe.
You mentioned that working with kids and things like that. When did you meet Ted, and how did that all get started?
Well, the reality is I get the kids when they're 9 or 10, and I think Ted tried out and didn't even make the team as a 9-year-old.
I was going to throw that in there if you didn't throw that in there. Yeah,
right,
a little jab. Didn't make Devos.
It's not jab. There's a lot of kids that, and we maybe were a little more 10-year-old centric at the time, and and just he kept persevering, kept trying, and he came back second year, and he was just a fun kid to have on the team. He sprayed me once when I was buckling my boots, and do you remember that?
Yeah, I didn't do that again.
but there was another kid there. He started laughing, and I gave him a shove, and I said, "Stop it!" Right, yeah.
Well, Ted, so it looks like kind of almost like a Michael Jordan-esque story. You didn't make a team, it looks like, and then what happened from there? Did you have to start training more, or what happened from there, I guess?
Yeah, so I didn't make Dar's team at the first time around, but I love skiing and just ski racing, just ripping around the mountain. I think what's like awesome about like Dar's group is like, yes, you're on the Park City ski team, which is a racing team, but like, I don't know, I can't even count how many days we trained there. Probably not very many. Like we were mostly just ripping around the mountain, like charging. Like you learn like how hard you can push yourself and like straight lining down things or, jumping off all the jumps there. Dar has like these little mental models of all the records off every jump. And so like, we're always like trying to beat those. And every time you land or don't land, you're like looking to him to see if it was like a new record. And that's just like super fun. So like, that was what is like so amazing about Dar's group is it's not just like about trying to like ski fast in gates. It's about like trying to like grow up on the mountain and like learn how to push your limits and have more fun out there.
Well, very clearly, like you're so passionate about it, and of course, 5-time world champion, 2-time gold medalist, and things like that. Dar, what was it about Ted that separated him from the pack?
I don't really think it was much until he was a little older.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, I think your mother had told me a story. It was the Eric Hayes race at the beginning of the year where you were starting probably 160, no points, came home, and the girls had already run. It was on payday. He came home, and he said after that, his mother told me he changed. Something clicked in him that he didn't like being so far back, but the reality was that's where you start in ski race. You start at the back and you work your way up, and that's how it goes. And those kids that decide to persevere and stick with it and not let the downfalls get to them are those that are successful.
And Ted, was it kind of just you were tired of not being one of the best, or what was it? What was it that made you want to kind of flip a switch, I guess I should say?
Well, I had this passion for ski racing, but I wasn't really good until I was probably 17 years old. I mean, I was okay regionally, but I'd get beat by other kids in the Park City ski team that are my same age, given he was one of the best in the world at his age, but he'd beat me by 7 to 10 seconds a race. I'd just be nowhere out there, but I still had the love and the drive for it, and so I worked hard at it. And as I got more physically mature, and I think also one of the things was that not being good at that middle teenage years allowed me to experiment and play with my skiing more than I would have if I was trying to stay on this track of being this high level racer. I probably wouldn't have allowed myself to experiment and play as much as I did on skis, and so being kind of in a nowhere zone was liberating in that sense, and I think that ended up paying off later.
Welcome back to the Scoreboard. Before the break, we introduced you to Ted Ligety and his childhood coach with our sports director, Blake O'Rourke. And let's jump back into the interview and hear about some of their favorite past memories.
I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about maybe go down memory lane a little bit with both of you. I kind of want to just ask, I'll go with Dar first and then I'll come back over to Ted. I'm just curious, maybe your favorite memory with Ted over the years training with each other.
One thing I tell a lot of kids is that he skied all the time. He skied in the mornings. I'd be there. I worked at restaurants at night. I'd go in the morning to go do some skiing, and he'd be there skiing, and the other kids were not. And him spraying me, I still remember that. He used to have a little one-piece suit.
Yeah, a little fluorescent one-piece suit. Yeah.
Right. and again, people often ask me, do you have any future Olympians? And I don't put that on them. I don't even think that for them, because the road to get there is so far and so challenging. I tried to be a good ski racer and I did fine, but I didn't back it up far enough of when I decided that I wanted to be that. And I didn't, put in all those effort and all the years, because it's through just perseverance is the only way to succeed in ski racing.
Really quick before I get to you, Ted. Dar, you keep bringing up the word perseverance. What is it about Ted? What was it about his perseverance that you saw that was so much more than everyone else? I mean, clearly he's one of the most decorated people that you've ever been able to train, and so there must have been something about him that was special.
His love of skiing. He's mentioned a couple times about his love of skiing, and he loved to be out there, and he loved to, and once he started beating the other people, he said, take a look at my rear end, because you're never going to see it again. And they didn't. I still tell my kids that. Once you break through, Ted was not the biggest kid.
Yeah.
Am I right? You were not the biggest kid on the team, and sometimes bigger kids in little kids sport have somewhat of an advantage.
Yeah.
But yet, it's that you have to have a drive. You have to love to be out there. It doesn't matter. His coach Sasha told me how his first trip to Chile, got there midday, and Ted's the only one who went out skiing, and everybody's going, well, you got to rest. You got to do this. And Sasha said he doesn't remember any of the other kids' names that were at that camp. And that just tells you, how he kept after it, because it's not a road of all highs, and you have to, and I think all sports are that way.
Did your body ever break down? I mean, obviously, every athlete, their body breaks down, but did you ever think to yourself, maybe I should have taken a day off, or was it all worth it in the end?
I mean, when I was close to the end, I mean, that's when my body did break down. You know, when I was in my 30s, I definitely had a lot of, you know, not as many acute injuries. Like I blew out my knee like everybody does as a ski racer, but mine are of more of the chronic sense. And I think like that's partially for me being a little bit of a hammerhead, especially when I was younger on the ski team. So yes, if I were to like redo it all, I probably would have like rethought of how, especially on like the dryland side. I think like my entire life I skied a lot of miles. Like one of my big goals like a ski racer was I didn't want to be just like a one event skier. I wanted to ski everything. That started from when I was a kid, just like wanted to ski the whole mountain, and that required skiing more miles. So I think that overall was good for me, but I probably wasn't as like smart as I should have been in the gym and stuff like that though.
We kind of got on a tangent here, and so I did want to ask you still your favorite memory with Dar over the years.
Oh man, I mean it's funny because like so many of my best friends to this day I went through Dar's program with, so we like always have funny memories. I mean, whether it's like one of my like fondest memories is like going in like all these little jumps. Like there's a jump Moosehead, and like we would try to like go as far as we possibly could. And I think like if I think back to Dar's era, like I was also like I wasn't the best or the fastest or whatever, but I was probably one of the most competitive. Like I wanted that like Moosehead record. That's like I wanted that so badly. And they just like, I remember packing it in probably 20 times in a row, like full of just snow, and just trying to stick it out, like having to land on the flats in order to get the record. And memories like that are just like straight lining down Thanes. Like he just like create all these little like fun competitions around the mountain, and it was, I mean, those were just like good times.
I kind of want to ask something. It's for both of you, really. When you have these incredible moments, winning gold, winning world championships, what is it like between the two of you? What is that moment like between the two of you?
You know, at the World Championships, excuse me, at Beaver Creek, you were ahead behind after the first run to Marcel Hirscher by .24. And I said, I knew he could win. I knew he could win. And I was down in the finish area and watch him come down, and it was just, I had never felt happier for another person in my whole life. I really hadn't, you know, how he had earned this, and he took it on. He took it on. And I remember it was kind of after the flower ceremony, and I said, Ted, and you said, Dar, right? Kind of, he was in the finish area, and I was a little bit up in the stands, but yeah.
And for you, I mean, what has it been like, you know, 20 years the two of you trained together, more than that, I would say, or is that accurate, or was there
he was actually I'm like one of the few kids that actually had Dar twice.
Yep.
So it was like my first 2 years in the Park City ski team.
Yep,
so
that's right.
but like Dar's had this amazingly long career with the Park City ski team, longevity, like had so many different generations. So like I would come back to Park City and he's still around, still a mainstay. I always like joke with him that he needs to stick around. So, you know, my kids can get the Dar experience. But just like a mainstay, like at the end of the season, like I'd give him a bunch of bibs from the races for the kids, and he'd bring over like the newspapers and sign them at the end of the year. So one of the few coaches that I had since I was a little kid that I still stay in touch with.
Last thing from me, I just wanted to ask each of you just one word to describe the relationship that you two have and the career that you two have been able to build together.
Ooh, that's one word.
One word.
On my side, it's respect. It's respect.
Yeah, gritty. I think Dar makes gritty kids.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for sitting down with us today. We love seeing the camaraderie between the two of you, and it's so fun to be able to watch. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
You're watching The Scoreboard. I'm your host, Maddie Evans. Now, we had a chance recently to sit down with head coach from the Eagle Valley cross country team and some of her incredible athletes. Let's take a look at what they had to say on their upcoming season. If you tuned into The Scoreboard last night, we talked a lot about the Battle Mountain cross country team. Well, now I've got the Eagle Valley cross country team joining me on the couch. So I've got Ellie, I've got Coach Melinda Brandt, and I've got Jake joining me. Thank you guys so much for being here nice and early.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks
having
for-
us.
So I'm gonna start over here. Sorry, guys. Ellie, what grade are you in?
I am a junior in high school this year,
And how long have you been running cross country?
since my freshman year, so for 2 years now.
And do you like it?
I love it.
I said earlier that if I was running, that something was chasing me and everyone needed to run. How long have you been coaching the team?
We started the team in 2008. Before that, it was shared with Battle Mountain. So Eagle Valley started our own team then, and we've been going ever since.
That's incredible. I know that's kind of a common thing here to have everyone kind of group together when the sport is not big enough. Jake, what grade are you in?
I'm a senior right now.
Oh man, and how long have you been running cross country?
This is gonna be my 7th year, so
Wow, so you did it through middle school too?
yeah, it's been a long time.
Man, you guys are really athletic. I'm feeling not great about it over here, but that's okay. So, as you guys are going into your season, how are you feeling? What kind of challenges do you foresee in this season?
I'm feeling really strong. Our team's gonna be really good, but our biggest challenge right now is just making sure our back boys remember just keeping good pacing and to just like stay with your team.
Right, which I actually don't know very much about cross country. So, for people who maybe have not ever been into this sport or been part of this sport, can you explain what the difference between track and cross country is?
Cross country is purely long distance. We're doing trails, we're doing mountains, and basically everything in between. And track is just on the track for the most part, and it's a lot faster paced than cross country would be.
That makes sense to me. And so, what do you think the most challenging trail that you guys run here is?
I don't know.
Good question. Probably in Malloy Park, the trails back out there. That's always a difficult one.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense area. And so, as the coach, what do you use to keep these kids motivated to stay on the trails and keep just like spirits high, especially that it's been kind of a weird couple of years with COVID and now getting back into running again. I mean, how have you brought them back into the like swing of being competitive athletes?
Yeah, I think it's awesome because during COVID, right, the trails are always open,
Right.
running is always available, and I think that, was really healthy for kids to keep running. But within our team, we really try to do a lot of different stuff. We try to do silly things like chocolate milk relays and watermelon runs and color runs that show kids that they can be a part of the team regardless of how fast or slow they may be. The kids that are varsity runners are really competitive in and of themselves, and so competing and doing really well in a workout is motivating, but also the friendships are really important, and with your coach and with your teammates are really the pieces that keep these guys going really strong.
Which is incredible. And so, what would you say the biggest lesson that you guys have learned from being in cross country is?
Self-motivation. No one else will do it for you, and I think it's really important to kind of be able to push yourself through the hardest, like physically hardest thing I've ever gone through, and I think it can teach you that you can do a lot more than you're expecting from yourself.
Which I think that's a really good lesson, and especially as you become an adult and you start a career or you have to push yourself through college or whatever it is, that you just have that piece of information. What do you think your best lesson is?
I would say staying committed and making sure you're really in the sport, because sometimes it's really difficult to get running some days, and if you stay committed, you're really going to progress really well.
And so when you guys are not practicing cross country, do you do any other kind of exercise to kind of stay in shape for the cross country season?
I think it's really important to keep your legs strong, just with how much mileage you're doing. I was in the weight room a lot this summer, and I play soccer in the spring, which cross country has helped immensely with the conditioning side of that.
I can only imagine, due to the running on the field and then the running through the trails, you're prepared, because
Yeah.
dodging people and dodging rocks, I feel like is pretty hand in hand right there
You
with
could
each
say
other.
that, yeah.
Do you play any other sports?
Yeah, I actually ski Nordic and I do trek in the spring. So Nordic is really helpful for your aerobic base and really just keeping up like that endurance mindset as well. And yeah.
Do you have any like workouts that you recommend the kids continue to do through the off time of kind of the season?
Yeah, we train all summer, so we have some summer training programs with the various strength and conditioning in that. And so building up miles over the summer has been kind of the key to keeping kids healthy and strong over the fall season. And then with the other sports, we have awesome coaches within the Nordic program. Other kids are doing a variety of other sports too. We have our winter track program where kids are having a chance to do extra meets outside of the season and then roll into track in the spring.
Which is really cool because this isn't a program that's been around for forever, 2008, so it's not new, but it's not seasoned veteran like some of the other ones. And you guys have done such a good job, and you guys just keep pushing forward. I know that you lost quite a few seniors last year.
We did.
Is that scary to you guys, or do you find this is an exciting opportunity to introduce all the new freshmen?
Yeah, I think we kind of have a different situation on the guys and the girls side. The guys, we lost 3 varsity runners, but 9 total boys, seniors, so that was a lot of guys. But we have guys stepping right into those roles, and we're going to be stronger this year. So those guys really laid a nice foundation. On the ladies' side, we lost 5 really key members of our team, 4 of which had run varsity for the last 4 years, and so they took a big position in our program, and we are having those freshmen step up. Ellie's helping with that and just showing new runners what it's like to be a part of cross country, to work harder than they maybe have ever worked before.
Right.
And we're still learning. So kind of our theme this year is just the pursuit of that goal of we are going to keep going toward that goal, and every step forward is a step, in the right direction, and sometimes we'll take a step back. But we have a lot of new runners, both older new runners and freshmen on the girls' side. So Ellie's helping show them the way, and each week they're getting better, which is phenomenal.
And over the course of the season, how many total meets do you guys do?
Well, we normally have a meet every week, but not every kid runs every week. Jake just took this last weekend off. We'll take a weekend off before one of our other big meets. So I think our schedule has about 8, but then we roll into regionals, which qualifies you for state, and then potentially some other meets after that.
Which is incredible. And what's the average distance that you guys run?
3.1 miles.
Wow. That's amazing. I walk my dog 3 miles a day, and I'm like, gosh, I'm so in shape right now. I'm like, this is so healthy. Look at me go. So if you guys had any piece of advice for any kids maybe starting to get into track, what would you give them as your piece of advice? Or not track, sorry, cross country.
I think I'd tell them, prepare yourself, but also just push yourself. It's almost easier to get better as the weeks go by, and I think as long as you can recognize that and make sure that you acknowledge your progress, you acknowledge how far you've come. I mean, just from the first week of practice, we're 3-4 weeks in, I've gotten a lot faster, and I think it's cool to make note of that, and it's important to give yourself some credit.
I think so too, and I think that these are important things, and so you sound like the perfect person to help these freshmen transition into the sport.
Thank you.
What would your advice be?
Just remember that you're going to get better over time, as Ellie said, and really just stay committed, because you're really only going to get better unless you get injured, but everything else gets a lot easier over time.
Well, I'm kind of excited to see how your guys' season progresses and where you guys both sit throughout the season. So I hope that you come back in, chat with me in a couple weeks after you guys have had a couple meets, and we can talk about the trials and tribulations of Malloy Park because I know those trails back there are intense. I went to Minturn Middle School way back when, and so I have spent a lot of time back there exploring those trails. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much
for coming in, giving me all this great information, chatting with us, and good luck for your season and good luck for your upcoming seasons. I'm excited to see all of the transitions.
Thank you.
Make sure that you stay tuned. That way you can always see what's taking place at our local high school with all of the great sports. Cross country is one of the intense ones. It helps these kids gear up for so many great things throughout their life and through some of their other sports. So we're excited to see how this kind of plays out through the rest of the season. We're going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to introduce you to Cindy Krieg from the town of Minturn. So stay tuned. That's all the time that we have for this episode of The Scoreboard. If you have any story ideas that you would like to see us bring to life, make sure that you send us an email at scoreboard@tv8vail.com. As always, check out our website at The Scoreboard Nation. That way you can see all of our local and regional content. I've been your host, Maddie Evans, and I cannot wait to see you here next time on The Scoreboard.